stampers, welcome to another episode of Something Else, when we stamp on surfaces other than traditional paper. For today's project, you are going to need a pillar candle. You want to make sure it has smooth, rounded sides, so not a square candle. We're also going to need our Staz-On ink, and with that, of course, the Staz-On solvent ink cleaner, since regular traditional cleaner won't work with this Staz-On ink. We're also going to use a glue stick. I'm using the Stampin' Up! Anywhere glue stick. A stamp set of your choice. This is the Circle Circus stamp set from Stampin' Up! You're also going to need something from the kitchen, some wax paper, and we're also going to be using tissue paper. And you can use any kind of tissue paper, just regular tissue paper that you would get with a shirt box or use to wrap presents. What we're going to do is we're going to take our Staz-On ink and a few stamps that we like. So I'm going to grab this one. I like that image a lot, and this one, and we could probably use a few others. And we're going to go ahead and take our tissue paper. What we'll notice about tissue paper, traditional tissue paper, is that although it's very, very difficult to see in a video, there actually is a smooth side and a rough side. It feels like there's a slight coating on the smooth side, and what I've found is that you're better off stamping on the smooth side. It seems to do a great job of holding the image really well. So I would suggest that we stamp on the smooth side of this tissue paper. I'm also going to grab just a scrap piece of paper behind me, because when we stamp on tissue paper, the ink could go through that tissue paper, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to use our Staz-On ink. So I guess today for this episode of Something Else, we're stamping on something like traditional paper, but it is tissue paper, and what we're going to do with it is a bit non-traditional. So we're going to go ahead and ink up our stamp, and we're going to stamp these images multiple times on the tissue paper. I've gone ahead and already done this in the interest of time, but you're going to go ahead and stamp quite a few of these images, and then what we're going to do is go ahead and cut them out. So you'll use a pair of scissors, and you don't have to be neat about your cutting. And then what we're going to do is just kind of cut it somewhat circular around the edges. Again, you don't have to be right at the edge. It doesn't have to be even. So just cut this out as you like. Again, in the interest of time, I stamped a bunch of these images on tissue paper and went ahead and cut them out. So now we have a bunch of our images. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your candle. You're also going to take your Anywhere glue stick, and you're going to adhere these images, these pieces of tissue paper, with just a tiny, tiny bit of Anywhere glue stick where you would like them on the candle. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Anywhere glue stick on here, and then pick up my candle, and we're going to go ahead and just do one side at a time. So I'm going to put one of those there, and then we'll go ahead and grab one of these little images and stick that on like so, and we'll go ahead and try one of these. I like this one quite a bit, because what you'll find a little bit later is this is a great image that has a dot in the middle, and we're going to dress up that dot in a little bit. So we now have one side of the candle covered with our images. Then what we're going to do is actually take a piece of wax paper, and you want to get a decent length of wax paper for this, because you're going to wrap it around the entire candle and then also need some to grab onto. So I'm going to take a decent piece of wax paper, and you're going to take it and you're going to wrap it around the candle, and you're going to create kind of a grip for yourself. And you want to grip this really, really tightly so that this is nice and smooth up against your candle. And then what we're going to do, we're going to turn on our heat tool. And what the heat tool is going to do is it's going to gently heat up this area. And just when you see this area turn a little bit glassy looking, it gets a little bit glossy, that's when you want to stop with the heat tool. If you keep the heat tool going, you're going to deform your candle. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my heat tool, hold that really, really tight, and we're going to go gently with our heat tool for not a very long time. Okay, going a little glassy, there it goes. I don't know if you can see that on the video, but it's just gone a bit glassy, and that's exactly what you want to see happen, because it means that's embedding right into the candle. Okay, so we're going to turn off our embossing heat gun. Going to let that cool just a second, and then we're going to come in and we're going to peel. Oops, I didn't get those edges down. Let me get those edges. Hold on one second. Let me try these edges again. Get those edges down. There we go. That one went glassy really fast. So I'm going to make sure I don't pull up the edges. Okay, let it cool for a second, and then we're going to go ahead and peel off. Oh, didn't get those edges either. Going to have to go back and just get these edges down, but that's okay. But you can see that it's now adhered into the candle. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat this all the way around the candle. So I've gone ahead and I have glued down a few more images, and we're going to go ahead and heat these images again. You are going to want to use a fresh sheet of wax paper every time you do this, because obviously the one that you've already heated up, the wax has melted off of it. So we're going to go ahead and use the heat tool again to heat things up. And you see it change color, it gets a bit shiny, and that's what you want to have happen. You want it to go a little shiny. It's almost like the wax paper sweats a bit, and that's the look you're going for. Trying to keep it smooth, trying to get it to sweat just a little bit but not melt your candle. And then again, we're going to go ahead and let that dry very briefly, and then once again we're going to peel that wax paper off. That one worked a lot better than my first time around, huh? And then we're going to go ahead and complete the candle, and it will look something like this. I've gone ahead and I have completed attaching and using my heat gun to apply all of these images to the candle. Then what we're going to do, I mentioned earlier that we were going to jazz up the center of these images a bit, since they have a dot in the middle. What I'm grabbing are my Stampin' Up! Rhinestone brads, and what's wonderful about candles is that you can take one of these brads, and let's see what size I want to use. I'm going to use one of these small ones, and you can actually, if you can see me doing this, you can push this right through the center of that hole and just push right into the candle, into the wax, and that brad will stay in there. And we're going to go ahead and do that to a few other of these really pretty stamp images to give this candle a bit of bling. You might want to try starting with a smaller candle, and you'll notice that these images are in color. You can use regular Stampin' Up! Classic ink for this project. This one has a little bit of a Christmas look to it, and the regular ink is actually fine for these projects. But you may want to start small just to kind of get the hang of the technique, and then go ahead and do your larger candles. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Something Else. Looking forward to seeing you on our next episode. Who knows what we might try to stamp on next.